Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond excited for today's show. Joining us is a man who changed comedy forever. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
Well, hello there, Calvin. I'm Richard Pryor. I spent my time on Earth trying to make people laugh by telling the truth, even the parts of the truth that hurt a little bit. It's wonderful to have another chance to share some stories.
We are honored to have you, Richard. Let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I came into this world on December 1st, 1940. I was born in Peoria, Illinois.
And what was your given name at birth?
My full name was Richard Franklin Lennox Thomas Pryor.
That is quite a name. Is there a story behind your birth name?
You know, it was just a collection of family names, really. In the neighborhood where I grew up, having a long, formal name like that felt a little fancy. But it didn't take long for everyone to just settle on Richard.
What was your hometown like growing up in Peoria?
Peoria was a tough place, man. It was a Midwestern town with a lot of grit. My world was centered around the North Street area. It was vibrant, loud, and full of characters, but it wasn't exactly a playground for kids. It was the kind of place that forced you to grow up fast and keep your eyes open.
What was your family life like during those years?
It was unconventional, to say the least. My grandmother, Marie Carter, ran a brothel, and that's where I was raised. My mother worked there, and my father, Leroy Buck Pryor, was a bartender and a boxer. It was a world filled with people from all walks of life, hustlers, dreamers, and everything in between. It wasn't Leave It to Beaver, but it was my life.
What kind of kid were you in the middle of all that?
I was a sensitive kid, believe it or not. I was always watching people. I used humor as a shield. If I could make the tough guys laugh, they wouldn't hit me. I was the class clown, the kid in the back making noises to get a reaction. I just wanted to be seen and liked.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Loneliness was a big one. Even in a house full of people, I often felt alone, and I was afraid of the dark, literally and figuratively. I was scared of not being enough, of being forgotten in a town like Peoria.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I wanted to be an entertainer. I'd watch the movies and see the people on screen, and I just knew I wanted to be a part of that magic. I wanted to hear the applause. I wanted to know that I had the power to make a whole room feel something.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I loved anything that involved the stage. My teacher, Mrs. Huffman, actually let me tell jokes to the class if I promised to be quiet during the lessons. That was my favorite part of the day. I wasn't much for math, but give me an audience and I was a straight A student.
What was your first job?
Aside from helping out around my grandmother's place, one of my first real jobs was as a janitor and an usher at a local theater. I loved it because I got to see the shows for free. I'd watch the performers and study how they moved and how they timed their lines.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I think I realized it when I saw that I could look at something terrible or sad and find the piece of it that was funny. Most people just saw the sadness. I saw the absurdity. That's when I knew my brain worked a little differently.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Moving to New York City in the early 60s. I just packed up and went. It felt like a small step toward a dream, but it ended up being the doorway to my whole career. I started out trying to be like Bill Cosby, very clean, very safe, before I found my own voice.
What was your biggest break?
Opening for Bobby Darin in Las Vegas was huge, but really, appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show was the moment the whole country saw me. That was the I've arrived moment for a kid from Peoria.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Money was always tight, and I was constantly battling my own nerves. But the biggest struggle was trying to be someone I wasn't. I was performing a version of myself that was polite and sanitized because I thought that's what people wanted. It was exhausting.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Oh, plenty of times. There was a famous night at the Alumni Hall in Las Vegas where I just walked off stage. I looked at the audience, asked myself, what am I doing here? And just left. I thought I was done with show business that night, but it actually led me to find my real voice.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel were essential to your success?
People watching. I did it every single day. I'd sit on a bench or in a cafe and just watch how people talked, how they argued, how they laughed. Those observations were the fuel for my characters. I didn't write jokes, I wrote people.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I probably would have stayed in the neighborhood, maybe worked in a club or been a laborer, but honestly, I think I would have always found a way to be the funniest guy on the job site. I couldn't help myself.
What was your life like right before the fame hit?
It was a scramble, living in small apartments, doing sets for a few dollars, and just trying to figure out who Richard Pryor really was. It was a time of a lot of searching and a lot of hunger.
How did relationships change after success?
It got complicated. Suddenly, everyone wants to be your friend, and it's hard to tell who's there for you and who's there for the star. I had a lot of marriages, 7 of them, so you could say I was always looking for love, but didn't always know how to keep it.
Did fame bring happiness?
It brought comfort and it brought opportunity, but happiness, that's an inside job. Fame makes everything louder, the good and the bad. It didn't fix the holes I had inside. It just gave me more expensive ways to try and fill them.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The lack of privacy and the pressure to always be on. People expect you to be funny 24/7. Sometimes you just want to buy a carton of milk without having to do a bit.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People thought I was always angry because I talked about race and politics so much. But I wasn't angry. I was just observant. I loved people. I really did. I just wanted us to be better to each other.
What was your darkest moment?
The 1980 incident where I set myself on fire while freebasing cocaine. That was as low as it gets. It was a wake-up call that was heard around the world. It was a moment of total self-destruction, but it also started a very long road to recovery.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I regretted the way I treated some of the women in my life, and I regretted the years I lost to drugs. I was very open about my mistakes because I hoped someone else could learn from them without having to go through the fire themselves.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
That I was a quote-unquote black comic. I was a comic who happened to be black, telling stories about the human condition. My stories were about pain, fear, and joy, things everyone feels, no matter what they look like.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
During the filming of The Mac, there was so much chaos and tension on set. I handled it the only way I knew how back then, by leaning into the chaos. But eventually, I learned that you have to be the calm in the storm if you want the work to be good.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It changed my circumstances completely. I went from having nothing to having everything I could ever want. It allowed me to take care of my family, which was the best part. But deep down, I was still that same kid from Peoria looking for a laugh.
What personal battles were you fighting privately?
My health became a huge battle later on when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It was a slow, difficult fight that took away my ability to move the way I wanted to. Dealing with that privately before the world knew was very tough.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My grandmother, Marie. She was tough as nails and taught me how to survive. And professionally, guys like Charlie Chaplin and Red Fox, they showed me what was possible with just your body and your voice.
What was life like in your final years?
It was quieter. I spent a lot of time at my home in California. Even though the MS made it hard to speak and move, I still had my spark. I enjoyed the company of my friends and my animals. I found a bit of peace that had eluded me for a long time.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was still involved in comedy, helping out with various projects, and even doing some small appearances when I could. I was always thinking of stories. My mind never stopped, even when my body did.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on December 10th, 2005, in Los Angeles, California.
What happened?
I had a heart attack. I was 65 years old. It was a quick end to a very long, very fast-paced life.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I absolutely loved animals. I even founded an organization called Pryor's Planet to help rescue them. I found a lot of comfort in the company of dogs and cats. They don't care if you're famous.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were so many. People said I died long before I actually did, or that I had lost my mind entirely. The wildest ones usually involve my wilder days in the 70s, and most of those, well, they might have actually been true.
What was your most unique habit?
I used to talk to myself a lot when I was developing characters. I'd have full conversations in different voices just to see how they sounded together. People probably thought I was losing it, but I was just working.
What was your favorite food?
I loved soul food. Give me some fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread, and I was a happy man.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
I loved the local spots in Los Angeles, places where the food felt like home. I wasn't much for the fancy 5-star places. I wanted flavor and heart.
What was your favorite book?
I read a lot of biographies. I was fascinated by how other people survived their lives. I didn't have one specific favorite, but I always had a book by my bed.
Did you have any known rivalries?
People tried to manufacture rivalries between me and other comics like Bill Cosby or Eddie Murphy, but I didn't see it that way. I respected anyone who had the guts to stand on a stage alone.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
When I was in the army in Germany, I got into some trouble for an incident involving a white soldier who was being particularly racist. It resulted in some jail time for me. It was a turning point because it showed me how much the world needed to change and how much I needed to find a way to express that frustration.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Working with Gene Wilder on Stir Crazy or Silver Streak. We would get to laughing so hard during takes that we couldn't finish the scene. Gene had this way of looking at me that just broke me up every time.
Did you ever prank someone?
I was more of a verbal prankster. I'd tell someone a totally ridiculous story with a straight face just to see how long it took them to realize I was pulling their leg.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I bought a lot of cars and a lot of jewelry in the 70s. But honestly, the most outlandish thing was probably just the lifestyle itself, the parties and the travel. I lived large because I never thought I'd have the chance to.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. The world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs your specific truth. And don't be afraid to fail. The best jokes usually come from the biggest messes.
Richard, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for listening. Life is a beautiful, messy, hilarious thing. Don't take it too seriously and try to be kind to one another. It was a real treat to be here, Calvin. Thanks for having me on the show.
What an absolute legend. From the streets of Peoria to the pinnacle of comedy, Richard Pryor's honesty and heart are truly one of a kind. Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us today. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.